The terrifying prophecy of 2020, 5 from a future human. The future belongs to those who prepare for it today. Malcolm X. What if someone told you the world would change forever in the year 2025, and they had seen it with their own eyes decades in advance? Would you believe them? Or would you laugh it off as fiction? In 2010, a mysterious forum post surfaced online. The author, claiming to be a human from the year 2090, shared eerie visions of a world reshaped by both awe-inspiring technology and catastrophic upheaval. While skeptics mocked the idea at first, some of these so-called visions have quietly come true over the past decade. But one prophecy remains, one that speaks of a massive shift in the year 2025. It's not just about politics or technology. It's about humanity's place in the universe. What exactly did this future human warn us about? And how much time do we really have left? Stay with us on the journey of wisdom as we unravel this chilling message, one that may hold the key to our future. And hey, if you like and subscribe before the end, who knows, you might just align your path with something greater. Number 1. First appearance and first warning. On an ordinary November day in 2010, when most internet users in Japan were engaged in casual conversations about anime, politics, and daily routines, a mysterious post quietly appeared on the Forum 2 channel, Japan's largest anonymous message board. The post was different from anything seen before. It wasn't a meme, a rant, or an obscure joke. The author claimed, quite boldly, "I come from the year 2062. Unlike the typical time travel tales crafted for entertainment, this wasn't shared for laughs or curiosity. The anonymous writer insisted he had arrived on a critical mission, one with serious implications for the future of humanity. At first glance, the message seemed absurd, the kind of thing easily dismissed in the noisy world of online chatter. But there was something hauntingly unique about how it ended. A coded string of characters, part Japanese, part phonetic gibberish, was accompanied by a chilling note. "This is advice for modern humanity." Few took it seriously at the time, brushing it off as another piece of internet folklore. After all, stories of time travelers were not new, and were often grouped alongside ghost tales or science fiction fantasies. But this one was different, and its ominous warning lingered longer than most. A small group of curious individuals took it upon themselves to decipher the strange code. They weren't driven by belief in time travel, but by the feeling that something about this message demanded attention. Eventually, through patient analysis, the cryptic line was translated to say, "Run to the mountains." The phrase was odd, even laughable at first. What kind of guidance was that? And so, like many strange internet tales, it faded into the background, forgotten by most. But just 4 months later, on March 11th, 2011, that eerie sentence would take on a much darker meaning. At 2:46 p.m., a massive earthquake struck the Tohoku region of Japan. It was one of the most powerful quakes in recorded history, triggering a tsunami of overwhelming scale. Waves as high as 40 meters devoured entire coastal towns in mere minutes. The devastation was staggering, leaving thousands dead or missing, families shattered, and a nation plunged into grief. Amid the wreckage, some who had read the forum post months earlier recalled the warning, "Run to the mountains." What had once been dismissed as nonsense now seemed terrifyingly prophetic. It was a moment that made people pause and reflect, not only on the fragility of life, but on how easy it is to ignore messages that don't fit our expectations. This event reshaped how people viewed the anonymous visitor from 2062. What was once regarded as madness began to be re-examined through a different lens. The internet, which had laughed at the strange post, now held its breath. Could this person have actually known something? Even those who didn't believe in time travel were shaken by the strange alignment of the warning and the catastrophe. In today's world, overwhelmed by information and noise, we often grow numb to signals that don't immediately make sense. Yet this story reminds us to pay attention, to listen deeply, even when something seems irrational or far-fetched. It's not about blindly believing every warning or conspiracy, but about remaining open-minded and aware. Number 2. Second Return and Kumamoto Incident. Let me take you into a mysterious story that has left many both fascinated and unsettled, one that raises questions not only about the nature of time, but about our readiness to face the unknown. This story centers around a person, or being, known simply as 2062. Someone who claimed to be a time traveler from the future. His sudden and unexplained appearances on the internet became the subject of widespread curiosity, especially after he correctly predicted a major earthquake in Japan. Then, just when the buzz around him had started to fade, something unexpected happened. In July of 2011, 2062 made a surprising return online, answering a few questions from people still intrigued by his earlier predictions. Most of the questions focused on how he knew about the previous earthquake and whether there was something worse coming, but instead of giving clear answers, he left the conversation hanging. He gave no explanation, no reassurance, only a cryptic message that he would reappear in April 2016 and that people should prepare themselves mentally. No details, no warnings, just that quiet, chilling suggestion that something significant was on its way. And then, as foretold, on April 14, 2016, a powerful earthquake struck Kumamoto in southern Japan. It devastated the region. Homes destroyed, lives shattered, the ground trembling beneath thousands of feet. As Japan tried to recover and make sense of the disaster, something eerie happened the very next day. On April 15th, exactly as he had promised 5 years earlier, 2062 returned again. The timing was impossible to ignore. The pattern that had begun in 2011 was repeating itself with unsettling accuracy. This time, however, the mysterious figure remained mostly silent. He didn't answer the flood of questions pouring in from an increasingly anxious audience. He said only one thing: "I will return on May 17th." And then, just as quickly as he had arrived, he vanished once more. True to the growing pattern, something terrible happened again. On May 16th, the day before his promised return, another earthquake struck, this time in Ibaraki Prefecture, closer to Tokyo. While not as devastating as Kumamoto, it caused enough damage to stir a wave of public fear and suspicion. Could this really be coincidence, or was there something or someone trying to tell us something in the only way they could? What made this more disturbing was the growing realization among followers. Whenever 2062 spoke of a return date, a natural disaster seemed to strike just a day before. Was this a warning system cloaked in riddles? Was it a test of whether we would pay attention to the signs we're often too distracted to notice? By now, the community watching him had shifted from casual curiosity to serious concern. With 3 significant earthquakes lining up almost perfectly with his reappearances, many began to take his words and silence alike very seriously. The silence spoke just as loudly as the messages. His behavior posed difficult questions. Why not say more if he truly wanted to help? Was his vagueness an intentional choice, perhaps to avoid interfering with future events? Or was this entire saga a mirror for us, to reflect on how prepared we are for inevitable tragedies that come without warning? This haunting sequence of events leaves us with more than just a mystery. It offers us a mirror. While it's easy to get caught up in the mystery of 2062, the real message might be far simpler and more grounded. How mentally and emotionally prepared are we for the unexpected? Are we paying enough attention to the world around us? Or are we only listening when disaster strikes? Perhaps, just perhaps, the purpose of this story is not to scare us, but to wake us up. So here is the lesson. Whether 2062 is real or not, his story calls us to be more aware, more prepared, and more compassionate during uncertain times. Let us not wait for disasters to remind us of our vulnerability. Let us start strengthening our inner stability now by being present, by helping each other, and by living with greater mindfulness. Because the truth is, while we may not be able to predict the future, we can always choose how we prepare for it. How ready are you to meet tomorrow, no matter what it brings? Number 3. Explanation of time travel. Let me take you into the heart of one of the most mysterious revelations from the so-called future human. A man who claimed to have lived in the year 2062 and traveled back to our time not just once, but multiple times. When people first met him, they were full of questions. Some were curious, others skeptical. But what truly sent chills down their spines was the moment he finally opened up about how he came to know the future in such unsettling detail. He wasn't just guessing. He said he had actually been there. According to him, humanity had already crossed one of science's final frontiers, time travel. Not only had we figured out how to leap forward into the future, but we had also developed the ability to return to the past. He spoke of 2 incredible machines. The first, called the Vicious 5000, could thrust a person into the future, while the second, named the Plusnek 6290, allowed that same person to come back to the past. But these machines weren't freely available or randomly used. Their operation was tightly governed by a powerful and secretive organization known as the Temporal Management Bureau, an agency that sounds like something out of science fiction, yet he spoke of it with absolute seriousness. This bureau didn't just monitor time travel, it enforced strict laws designed to keep the timeline intact and uncorrupted. He explained that since 2062, anyone authorized to travel through time had to follow strict protocols. Never reveal anything that could change historical events, never interfere in a way that might shift the natural flow of cause and effect, and absolutely never use knowledge of the future for selfish gain. If even one of these rules was broken, the punishment wasn't just imprisonment or exile. It was something far more terrifying. He described what he called the self-eraser effect. It was as if time itself, like a living being, could detect an anomaly in its body, and once it did, it would simply erase the problem entirely. That meant the violator would vanish from existence, not just physically, but from memory, history, even photographs, as though they had never been born. That chilling possibility explains why he always remained so vague, why he couldn't answer many of the questions people asked, no matter how desperate they were to know. It wasn't just fear, it was a deep respect for the force he claimed to be entangled with. Time, not as a line, but as a living, self-correcting organism. Now, I want you to pause and reflect. If this were true, what does it say about how fragile our reality might be? What if every action, every word, every invention has echoes we can't yet understand? Could the timeline we live in be more delicate than we imagine, always on the edge of change? Personally, I find it haunting yet fascinating. If we really had the power to travel through time, would we be wise enough to handle it? Or would we, like so many in our history, let our ambition outpace our wisdom? These are not just questions for science fiction fans. They're questions about who we are and who we might become. What do you think? Should humanity ever be allowed to control time itself? If you've watched this far, you're already open to exploring the deeper truths hidden in our future. Comment below with "Future Awakened" to show you're ready to face what 2025 may bring. Don't leave just yet. There's still more to uncover about this chilling prophecy. Stay with us until the end and discover what it could mean for you, your choices, and the world ahead. Number 4. The most serious warning, World War III. The warning from the mysterious figure known as 2062 brings with it not just a tale of future conflict, but a sobering mirror reflecting our present-day choices. He spoke clearly, with a tone of urgency, about a war that could erupt before 2030, not born from a sudden explosion or a singular act of aggression, but from years and decades of unresolved hatred, tension, and mistrust, simmering silently beneath the surface between two This war, he said, would not remain confined. It would spill across continents. Asia first, then engulfing the United States, Russia, the Middle East, and sweeping through Europe like a dark tide. What made this warning most chilling was not just the global scale, but the means of destruction. Not nuclear missiles falling from the skies, but chemical weapons silently seeping into lives, with horrors that even the mushroom clouds of Hiroshima and Nagasaki could not match. He painted a bleak image of Japan standing at the edge of oblivion, cities collapsing into dust, the familiar landscapes reduced to ashes, and millions fleeing from what was once their home. In Buddhism, there is a teaching from the Dhammapada. Hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal rule. This prophecy, terrifying as it is, calls not for panic but for introspection. It is not merely a vision of doom, but a reflection of where we stand today as a global community. How grievances left unhealed, how pride unchecked, and history unacknowledged can lead us down paths of destruction. This message echoes the wisdom of Thich Nhat Hanh, who said, "When another person makes you suffer, it is because he suffers deeply within himself, and his suffering is spilling over. He does not need punishment, he needs help. So too do nations." The prophecy reveals not an inevitable fate, but a probable one, should humanity fail to heed the quiet, persistent calls for compassion, dialogue, and reconciliation. The lesson here is deeply relevant to us all, especially for those in their 30s to 60s, many of whom are raising families, guiding communities, or leading in professional spheres. What legacy do we wish to leave behind? If war is seeded in the heart, then peace too must begin there. In our daily lives, we must take this teaching as a call to action, not just in grand geopolitical gestures, but in the small, meaningful ways we treat each other. Are we forgiving? Do we listen before judging? Do we teach our children to understand, not to dominate? Our actions today ripple outward, and like the ancient Zen saying reminds us, if you want to know your past life, look at your present condition. If you want to know your future, look at your present action. Rather than be paralyzed by fear, we must be awakened by it. The future is not written in stone. It is shaped by every choice we make now. The terrifying prophecy of 2025 is not a curse. It is a mirror. And while we cannot control the decisions of world leaders, we can influence the spirit of our communities, share compassion, settle conflicts early, and cultivate mindfulness, for these are the antidotes to violence and ignorance. As we walk this uncertain path together, may we remember that the seeds of peace are planted in the heart of understanding, and that even in the darkest predictions, there lies a light, if we have the courage to nurture it. Number 5. The Final Warnings. Let me tell you a strange and unsettling story, a story that has fascinated and disturbed many. It centers around a mysterious figure known only by the code name 2062, someone who claimed to be a time traveler from the future. He came and went in cryptic waves through Japan's online forums, dropping messages that were often vague, sometimes oddly specific, but always stirring deep curiosity and fear. Over time, he vanished completely from digital spaces, but not before leaving behind 2 final messages that many believe were meant as last warnings for humanity. The first was chilling. He predicted that on July 4th, 2025, a massive earthquake would strike off the coast of Japan. This wasn't just pulled from nowhere. It echoed details from an old prophetic manga, suggesting a strange overlap between fiction, prophecy, and possible reality. Could this be a coincidence? Or is there a deeper connection between what we imagine and what we eventually experience? What does it mean when art and prophecy begin to mirror one another? His second message, delivered before his final disappearance, was perhaps even more cryptic. It warned of a pivotal event in 2024, something that would mark a turning point for the world. Now, as we stand in 2025 and look back, we can't help but see the strange accuracy in that forewarning. 2024 shattered global climate records, becoming the hottest year ever recorded. Then came what many called supertooms, disasters that seemed almost biblical in scale and timing. Typhoon Yagi devastated parts of Asia, Hurricane Milton brought chaos to the US, and flash floods swept through Afghanistan, leaving destruction in their wake. These weren't isolated incidents. They felt connected, part of a much larger shift. When you lay these events beside the warning from 2062, you start to wonder, were we being given a chance to prepare, or were we being told what would happen no matter what? It's easy to dismiss this as just another internet mystery, another doomsday prophecy meant to stir fear. But if we take a step back and really look at what's happened, not just in terms of weather, but how we treat our environment, how fragile our societies are, how interconnected everything has become, we might see that the message behind the prophecy isn't about fear, but about awareness. The world isn't falling apart because of some unseen fate. It's responding to how we live, how we consume, how we ignore the signs around us. The terrifying part isn't the prophecy. It's that we might continue to do nothing, even when we're warned. So now the question isn't whether 2062 is real. The real question is, what will we do with what we know? Let this be a wake-up call. Whether or not you believe in time travelers or coded messages, the signs of a changing world are clear. Extreme weather, environmental degradation, rising global temperatures, these are not distant threats, they are here. What matters now is how we respond. Will we continue living as if nature is endless and indestructible? Or will we start treating the earth with the respect and care it needs to survive, and allow us to survive with it? The final lesson here is not about fearing the future, but about acting wisely in the present. Change doesn't require a prophecy. It just needs enough of us to truly pay attention. So, what kind of world do you want to wake up to in 2026? Thank you for watching today's video. It means a lot to have you here with us as we explore this powerful vision of the future. If this story made you think or feel something deeply, please share your thoughts in the comments. If you're new, just say, "I am a seeker." And if you've been with us for a while, type, "I am grounded." Your voice helps build this mindful community, and your support inspires us to keep going. Let's continue this journey together with open hearts and curious minds. How to stay happy no matter what happens. We've just explored a series of chilling prophecies, warnings that could easily spark fear or anxiety. But in truth, what matters most is not what might happen in the future, but how we choose to live right now. There's a well-known Buddhist saying, "When the mind is at peace, everything else is at peace." This means that even if the world outside is in chaos, we can still find balance inside. Happiness doesn't come from controlling the future. It comes from being fully present in this moment. So how can we stay happy no matter what happens? Number 1. Learn to observe instead of react. In a world that constantly shifts, whether through personal loss, unsettling news, or the ever-changing tides of global uncertainty, our knee-jerk reaction is often to resist or retaliate. We panic when plans unravel, feel anger when life feels unfair, or shut down when overwhelmed. But hidden in these very moments of discomfort lies a profound opportunity, the chance to observe instead of react. The Buddha once said, "Do not look for a sanctuary in anyone except yourself." This teaching reminds us that peace doesn't come from controlling the outside world. It comes from mastering how we relate to it within. So the next time life throws something unexpected your way, try this small but powerful shift. Pause. Inhale deeply, and instead of immediately doing something, simply notice what is happening in your body and mind. Feel the tension in your shoulders, the quickening of your breath, the surge of frustration or fear. Acknowledge these emotions, not as enemies, but as visitors passing through. Just like waves rise and fall in the ocean, our emotions too come and go. They are not permanent. When we observe them without attaching stories or judgment, we create space between what happens and how we choose to respond. This practice, rooted in mindfulness, is not about suppressing our feelings. It's about seeing them clearly and choosing not to be swept away. As the Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh wisely said, "Feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor." In daily life, this means that instead of snapping at a loved one in frustration or spiraling into anxiety over things we can't control, we can anchor ourselves in awareness. Observation is not passive, it's active attention, and it is a quiet kind of strength. It allows us to step back and see the full picture rather than getting caught in the storm. In relationships, it can mean responding with kindness instead of criticism. At work, it can mean choosing clarity over chaos. In our personal lives, it means realizing that we are not the storm. We are the sky that holds it all. We live in an age of information overload, constant notifications, and a culture that often rewards instant reactions. But wisdom, true grounded wisdom, asks us to slow down. And the beauty of this is that it's accessible to anyone at any moment. Whether you are in your 30s, navigating career pressures, in your 50s managing family and health, or in your 60s reflecting on life's deeper meaning, this practice of observation brings balance. It teaches us to trust the process rather than force outcomes. As the Dhammapada reminds us, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. The mind is everything. What we think, we become. In learning to observe, we train the mind to act from wisdom, not impulse. This simple shift, observe instead of react, is not just a technique, it's a way of living with inner dignity, helping us stay happy and grounded no matter what happens. What would your life look like if you gave yourself permission to pause, observe, and choose peace? That's not weakness, that's mastery. And that's where lasting happiness begins. Number 2. Build inner stability before the storm hits. Let me ask you something. How do you react when life suddenly throws a storm your way? Do you scramble to find shelter? Or do you already have a quiet space within yourself that you can retreat to? There's an old saying that goes, "A wise person doesn't wait for the storm to build shelter." And it holds a deep truth. The time to build inner peace isn't when things are already falling apart, it's before. Just like you wouldn't wait for winter to fix your roof, you shouldn't wait for emotional or mental chaos to start tending to your well-being. Happiness, real happiness, the kind that stays with you even when circumstances get tough, starts with preparation. And that preparation is inner stability. It's not something you stumble into. It's something you choose, build, and return to, day after day. Now, you don't need a mountain retreat or hours of free time to begin. Just take 10 minutes each day for yourself. Not to scroll your phone, not to check emails, but to really be with yourself. Sit in silence. Let your thoughts come and go like clouds drifting through the sky. Take a few deep breaths, slow and steady, feeling each inhale and exhale anchor you in the present. You can also read something that uplifts your spirit, a passage from a book, a meaningful quote, or even a short prayer. These small daily acts are like placing bricks in your inner foundation. One moment of peace at a time, you are strengthening your heart. And when life shakes, and it will, you won't be shaken at the core, you'll have roots. This daily practice isn't about escaping from the world. It's about building the kind of strength that doesn't rely on everything going right. You start to realize that happiness isn't about controlling life. It's about learning how to respond to it. And when your response is calm, grounded, and thoughtful, you begin to experience a steady kind of joy that external situations can't take away. This is the joy of knowing yourself. It's the quiet confidence that grows from facing the small discomforts of the day with mindfulness instead of resistance. So I invite you now. What small practice can you begin today that reconnects you with your inner calm? Can you take 10 minutes to just sit and breathe, even if your mind feels busy? What would it feel like to choose stillness instead of distraction, presence instead of pressure? These are questions worth asking, not once, but every day. Because each time you ask them, you build a deeper relationship with yourself. In a world full of noise, confusion, and urgency, choosing to slow down and come home to yourself is a radical act of self-care. It's also one of the most practical ways to stay happy no matter what life brings. So the next time you sense a storm on the horizon, remember, you've already begun building your shelter. And that shelter is made of silence, awareness, and the intention to live wisely. A lesson to carry with you. Happiness isn't something to chase when you're in trouble. It's something to build every day with small acts of awareness. By grounding yourself regularly in peace and presence, you create emotional stability that holds steady even when life doesn't. Start small, stay consistent, and watch your inner world become your greatest source of strength. Number 3. Connect with compassion, not fear. When life feels uncertain and the world around us starts to shake, the most natural response for many is to pull away, to hide behind silence, to guard our hearts, and to shrink our circle of trust. It's something we've all done at some point. Fear has a sneaky way of convincing us that we're safer alone, that connection is risky, or that kindness might be misunderstood. But I want to gently challenge that idea today, because in truth, it's not disconnection that protects us, it's compassion that sustains us. You see, in times of fear, what we need most is not to close ourselves off, but to reach out, not to retreat into silence, but to speak with warmth. When fear tells you to turn inward, I invite you instead to turn toward others. That's the quiet courage of the heart. Let me ask you something. When was the last time someone looked at you with genuine kindness? No judgment, no agenda, just pure care. Do you remember how that made you feel? Perhaps it softened something in you, or reminded you that you matter. Now imagine offering that same experience to someone else. A kind word, a small gesture, a few moments of your time. It might seem like nothing, but to someone else it could mean everything. The Buddha taught, radiate boundless love towards the entire world. That doesn't mean we have to change the world in one grand act. It means we change the world moment by moment, one interaction, one expression of kindness at a time. Thich Nhat Hanh said, "Understanding is love's other name." This is such a powerful reminder that real compassion starts not with fixing people, but with simply seeing them. When you see someone struggling, when you recognize the fear in their eyes or the tension in their voice, that's your moment to connect, not to withdraw. Why? Because when we understand that others suffer just as we do, it creates a bridge between hearts. That bridge is where happiness begins. Not the kind of happiness that comes and goes with circumstances, but the quiet joy that arises from living with purpose and love. Isn't that the kind of happiness we're all really looking for? If you're listening right now and feeling overwhelmed by everything going on in your life, or even in the world, I want you to know you're not alone. Truly. Pain, fear, doubt, these are part of the human experience. But so are compassion, connection, and joy. And we always have a choice in which we strengthen. When you choose to offer compassion instead of judgment, to listen instead of turning away, to understand instead of assume, you are planting seeds of happiness both in your heart and in the hearts of others. So maybe the real question to carry with you is this: in the middle of all the uncertainty around me, how can I be a source of peace today? How can I soften my heart instead of hardening it? Just by asking that, you're already on the path. You're choosing the higher ground, not because it's easy, but because it's what creates meaning. And meaning is where lasting happiness lives. Let's walk this path together, moment by moment, breath by breath, with compassion, not fear. Because in the end, it's love that liberates us. And when we live from that place, no matter what happens, we're already free. Number 4. Embrace impermanence as a natural part of life. In our journey through life, especially between the ages of 30 and 65, we often encounter moments of both beauty and hardship. Relationships shift, careers evolve, our bodies change, and loved ones come and go. It is in these very changes that the Buddhist teaching of impermanence, or anicca, gently reminds us of a deeper truth. Everything is in motion, nothing is fixed. At first, this realization may feel unsettling. After all, our minds naturally seek stability and control. But when we embrace impermanence as a fundamental aspect of life, not as a flaw or a punishment, we begin to unlock a kind of freedom that no external condition can give or take away. The Buddha himself taught, "All conditioned things are impermanent." When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. Instead of holding tightly to moments, people, or outcomes, we learn to appreciate their presence while they're here and let go when it's time. This perspective isn't about giving up or being passive. It's about meeting life with an open heart and wise understanding. The beauty of this teaching lies in its practicality, because when we stop resisting change, we stop exhausting ourselves. In modern life, many of us are constantly trying to keep things the same, striving to maintain the perfect relationship, chasing youth, or clinging to past successes. Yet the more we cling, the more we suffer. A Zen master once said, "Let go or be dragged." It's a reminder that peace doesn't come from control, but from our ability to flow with what is. When we internalize this, we begin to live more fully in the present moment, recognizing that every experience, even the difficult ones, has its own place and purpose. It allows us to greet challenges not with fear or resistance, but with resilience and compassion. Consider this. Just as the seasons change without our permission, so too do the chapters of our lives. Spring never tries to hold on to summer, and summer doesn't mourn the coming of fall. In the same way, when we trust the natural rhythm of change, we begin to understand that even our hardships are not permanent. They rise, they peak, and they eventually pass. This is not a naive optimism, but a grounded awareness that life is always shifting. The poet Rumi wrote, "Try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you." And in this spirit, we can train ourselves to soften in the face of uncertainty rather than harden against it. In your daily life, when things feel out of control or when sadness visits, pause and remind yourself, this too is changing. Just those 4 words can offer deep comfort. And as you practice this awareness, you may find that your moments of joy become richer because you're no longer distracted by the fear of them ending. At the same time, your difficult moments lose their power to define you because you know they're not forever. The Dalai Lama beautifully said, "If a problem can be solved, there is no need to worry. If it cannot be solved, worrying is of no use." In this mindset, we become less reactive and more reflective, responding to life rather than resisting it. So as you go about your days, whether facing health concerns, job transitions, or simply the quiet aches of aging, remember that impermanence is not your enemy. It is the doorway to a softer, wiser, more peaceful life. When you live with this truth in your heart, happiness no longer depends on what happens to you, but on how you choose to meet each moment. And in that choice, you find freedom. How do you currently respond to life's changes? Do you resist them, or do you gently ride the waves? And so, as we reflect on the warnings of 2062 and the uncertain path ahead, let's remember, the future is not meant to be feared, but understood, prepared for, and lived with awareness. Whether these prophecies are truth or myth, the deeper message is clear. Now is the time to wake up, to live mindfully, and to care for one another and this earth we all share. If this video made you think, feel, or see the world a little differently, please support our journey by liking, sharing, and subscribing to The Journey of Wisdom. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an episode that could open your heart or prepare your mind for what lies ahead. Until next time, walk gently, stay grounded, and keep seeking the truth within and beyond.